It's okay, we'll forgive you. You made quorum, so it's forgivable.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 27th Finance Committee meeting, the Abington Finance Committee. It will be our last meeting of the fiscal year. We have a small agenda tonight to go over to wrap up the end of the fiscal year transfers, brief discussion about special municipal employee status, and any communications and liaison reports and such, and then we'll adjourn. We'll set a date for our first meeting of the next year, next fiscal year, not next calendar year. So we have with us our esteemed town manager, Rick LaFond, and our assistant town manager, Dory Jameson, and our town accountant, Sue Moquin. Because he needs to be pumped up.
Oh, that's true. We definitely do that. Nicely done.
So we can absolutely the real brains of the operation. So we have our first item is the transfers. Sue, do you want to go over? Oh, is Rick going to go over the transfers? Okay.
Well, I'll go over some of it. The first, actually this is sort of debt interest, as you can see, the request for such a large transfer is because of some actually bonding requirements that didn't come in until actually after town meeting. Fortunately, we have quite a bit of money in our health insurance from the money we've saved from our exit from Mayflower Health Group. As you probably recall, we actually saved about $200,000+ in our budgeting process, but also the surplus we're generating, fortunately, becomes the town's now, because it become Mayflower. So there's significant funds available in health insurance. But when did roughly, Sue, when did we become? Did the treasurer collector become aware of the need for moving this bonding?
It was the town meeting had been posted last year, but it hadn't been approved, but it was already posted, so we couldn't make the change at that time.
Yep.
So the health insurance and that debt principal, so the money was in the debt principal, some of it, and then when she did the new bonding, it brought down the principal, but it brought up the interest.
Veterans benefits, as you know, that's a moving target every year. Although we budgeted what would seem to be sufficiently, a couple, you know, there's a couple of claims that you didn't count on can push that over the amount that we had planned. So Southfield, that's the assessment for that the towns get for Southfield. Yes, that is $14. That's all it is, but you know, again, you gotta go.
Needs to be paid.
The process is the process, exactly. So. The legal, we're asking for $10,000, although we still have about $6,000 left for June, which could be on track, very much so. On the other hand, to come back here at some later date to have another meeting, you know, whatever isn't expended, just reverse the free cash anyway. So,
yep.
So to avoid
And if the funds are available in another place and
yes.
could potentially be needed for
yes,
legal,
right.
it's better to move them now into legal,
right.
where we're right up at the end.
You know, those are the items, you know, easily identifiable without getting into the, you know, nooks and crannies of, you know, 500 from this budget, these are the major sources that are available from the budgets, so to fund all of these. Animal control salaries, you'll probably recall that sometime a year ago we had a regional agreement with Whitman and Hanson, actually Hanson at one point, but then Whitman during, at some point actually backed out of that, so we didn't have an opportunity to adjust before, you know, during last year's budget process. So this is actually making up for the fact that Whitman no longer participates, and we have to have our own animal control officer, etc.
And that was covered, as best I can tell, that was covered within the animal control
Correct.
That is.
budget.
Yes, exactly.
So it's just moving from one line to
Right.
to another there.
And selectmen's expense, we had a joint grant with Rockland, which some of you may recall, for the restoration of the rail trail between Abington and Rockland, which actually goes all the way to Hanover. And out of our local share of the approximately $100,000 grant that was involved in that, we didn't have a home for at the time, so we actually owe Rockland this money. That is essentially, they're the lead community, so they've absorbed that local share expense, and we actually have to reimburse them for that. So again, an excellent project, but have to find a home at the end of the year for this. Selectman salary, that's basically my vacation buyback at the end of the year for the amount of time, 2 weeks unused, or partially, almost 2 weeks. Again, that's contractual. This is budgeted next year. These are things that we're a little bit, perhaps should have budgeted more carefully for last year, but it's, in theory, you don't know if that's gonna happen. Accounting expense, which I highly don't recommend that you approve, the $500 for, as some of you may or may not know, that there's a new accounting, I don't know what it's called, I forget the title, but in the accounting office this year. So there was requirements for her to be, I'm not sure exactly, is this the DLR specifically, or just?
No, it was just you missed training, so she understood the
computer system.
Yeah.
And the HVAC upgrade, I think $800, we, as some of you will remember, that at the last town meeting, there was money appropriated specifically for this, but subsequently Wayne has gotten several, well, we'll say hardcore quotes, and slightly in arrears, but that's all for honoring the lowest quote for the HVAC upgrade. And this is really for the, not so much for the system itself, this is really for the computer system that makes it all work. So, a little bit over my head.
Assuming it will not be a Windows 95 system this time.
Oh, is that the new one?
Yeah.
Is that 1995?
That's the one that's being replaced.
Okay. The next one, the planning expense, they had, just quite frankly, a lot of public hearings this year. Some of them had to do with, actually, with the marijuana, et cetera. So they had a unusually heavy year for advertising requirements. The $10,000 in waste collection, it's a little bit underfunded, but a significant piece of that is for repair to equipment, meaning bins, the wheels, and there was we needed to order more equipment towards the end of the fiscal year. Now, that's not on the contractor, that's on the town to provide the bins and other equipment. So, and I'll have an aside to that at the end. I just want to give you a heads up on the waste collection budget for the next fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
FinCom expense, $300. You people really need to pay more attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I'm sorry, so.
This was computer for
Okay,
Deb.
all right, thank you. Okay.
She and I discussed that, and we talked with
Right.
Wayne, and
Okay.
he found a computer for her, as her old one.
And you
That
did have
was-
it within budget, but
Yeah,
there was no sense saying 300 here when I had the bigger amounts on the side there.
yes.
The library salaries, this is actually just moving $4,000 from their expense to their salaries. Town meeting did approve their new contract. We didn't necessarily seek additional funding because it was already in the budget elsewhere. So we thought, we'd just do it as an end-of-year transfer because it was relatively minimal, but as you will recall, the town did approve the contract. So again, really an interdepartmental transfer of funds to meet that requirement. The next one, the public health expense. This was actually a bill that came in earlier last year to pay for the public health nurses the town contracts with. This is a small piece of it. That contract went up, but in the transition from health agents, This just didn't get to us in a timely manner to deal with it during the budget process. And Board of Health expense, this is training, as some of you may have met the new health agent, but there were a couple training requirements he needed to get up to speed on. This is one of them, lead paint, so there weren't anything else that, as far as you know, that was in the budget that
He did a couple of other training within the budget, but this is the last thing he needed to do. He was trying to get it done through a program through the state, but they just don't have anything coming up soon enough. So he found a program where he paid for it. We did research it, we tried it.
So if there's any more specific questions, I'm sure Sue can help you. No pressure.
Anyone have questions on the transfers? Mike?
I just had two questions. One, the Southfield assessment, do we not have a line item for that? Or is
We have
that
a
just?
line item for
we
it, but
just-
we don't know what it's gonna be. It's always based on what the tax rate is for their parcels out there. And we don't set the tax rate for them. They do it and then we add it to our tax rate. So I don't know until the bill comes in.
And,
So we were $14 shy.
Yes.
and
It's pretty good.
I'm actually considering
Guess.
disciplinary measures
Yeah.
against the town accountant.
And I just want to make sure that I heard you clearly. You want us to not approve the accounting expense?
Yeah.
So your humor is.
I believe there was sarcasm involved in that comment.
Sarcasm?
Yeah, it was
Just wanna make
sarcasm.
sure.
It was meant to be
Keep his day
humorous.
job.
Yeah.
No,
I just
I
double
would ask,
checking.
I would ask that you do.
Good question.
If the town accountant were here, I might have a different opinion on that.
Any other
Motion
questions? I have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and I will take a second to write down the notes since our secretary, our board secretary and our recording secretary are both not here, so I get to play secretary tonight as well. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion at that? All those in favor of approving? It is unanimous.
And despite my sarcasm, I would like to thank Sue for all her work, end of year. As we're winding down in other areas, her efforts really kick in terms of dealing with Department of Revenue and everything in terms of end of year, closing the books. So fortunately, finding funds wasn't that difficult this year, but sometimes it can be, so.
We didn't touch the reserve fund this year.
Yeah. That's exciting.
That is good.
It must be fun to deal with the Department of Revenue.
Well, they just changed their rep too, so she's got to train a new rep.
That's great.
Tough it out, so. And if you don't mind, in terms of trash collection for the current fiscal year, we believe it's, because of, this is the year, we have 3-year contract with Public Waste Services. We have an option to renew for 2 additional years. We have an agreement that's coming that would allow us to do an amendment, allow us just for 1 year. Because we're probably going out to bid this year again for trash collection as well as, but the major issue is recycling. You may have heard this at other places. We've got recent communications from the Division of Labor, Department of Local Services, as well as, from the hall itself. But the fact is the recycling markets are so bad right now, especially most of a lot of the common recycling materials would literally go to China.
Yes.
And for various reasons,
China's refusing.
some of them political, that's not really, that's hurting the market for anything other than really cardboard at the moment. So our contract with Republic allows us to renew for 2 years, but it's a mutual renewal. And they're not willing to do that at the moment because they're taking a bath on getting rid of recyclables. So the contract basically called for increases based upon the consumer price index. However, considering they have to also agree to renew, they're not gonna be losing money on that. And this isn't obviously just Abington.
No.
So then what we'll probably be doing is, the cost of recycling will be a pass-through cost. There'll be a cost to dispose of recyclables. Our estimate right now is that it may cost an additional $150,000 over and above what we budgeted in that account. Fortunately, we know early enough that we can start making plans for a transfer towards the end of the fiscal year. And it also gives us time, again, to go out to bid and to look at perhaps other options next year, whether it's, every 2-week recycling, or whatever. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but just the various options that are available. So the health agent and financial staff will be working at that during this year to see what other options might exist. Whether or not that's acceptable to the community as a whole, the selectmen and other, policymakers, remains to be seen. But as it stands right now, the cost of recycling is above and beyond what we had anticipated.
Do we have to do it? That might be a very stupid question.
Not at all, but the problem is that it's the tonnage disposal fee. So if you weren't doing it as recycling, you'd be putting it in landfill, still
Right.
paying $80+ a ton.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but it's a very good question, because, the thought process is that as recycling, and, plants around the United States open up, that these recycling materials will have a home. And to the extent that you get people out of the habit of recycling and then have to get them back into the
Right.
habit, it's a little bit of a, we don't have a magic wand here or a crystal ball, so we're not sure what the future's gonna be. That's why we're only renewing with Republic, mutually, just for 1 year. Now, there, again, every disposal company is dealing with the same issues. This isn't just Republic. And the labor costs for Republic are the same as we have with anybody. Prevailing wages have to be paid, state prevailing wages. So to the extent that we might be able to save money with a different contractor, that remains to be seen, but it's probably not likely that it could be significant. The issue is the disposal and how that is affecting everybody right now. So,
Sure.
Yep.
So again, we'll obviously, already considering, where we might have opportunities, to save funds elsewhere, particularly in our fixed cost line items, which are fairly conservatively budgeted at the moment, so that at some point later in the fiscal year, we'll be able to deal with that. So I'm just letting you know that now.
Yep.
We don't want to be in a situation like you, where you've overspent by $300.
Yes.
Without even us knowing about it. In a timely manner.
So this is a problem for the whole state?
Yes.
The whole
Country.
Pretty sure.
Well, I understand that, but
Yes.
is the state doing anything?
Well,
They spend
I
enough?
guess the problem is the state isn't in a position, to drive the private sector requirement or to create, places to reprocess this, as a profit. So it's really more of at this stage, more of
It is an
It's-
interesting concept. Okay.
No, go ahead.
It was a pitch to save and to renew, and then it was a huge thing in towns. And it's just so interesting that the private sector, which is always sort of a knocking head, just obviously the public sector doesn't have much to do with it, right? So
Well, it's an interesting balance.
Yeah, no,
Like you
it's-
mentioned, the state where in a sense where the overall market has been driven for years largely by China taking all of these materials.
Right.
It's in a sense a mix between a municipal and a federal issue at this point, with
Yeah.
the state almost out of the middle of it.
And we're thinking by doing the 1-year contract, possibly another place may open up. that will
Absolutely.
benefit us. So
Yes.
doing the 1 year makes sense,
Yeah.
and see where we're at then.
Yeah.
And we've also made phone calls and they are the cheapest with the
Yeah.
pass-through price right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It's
good.
like, really, you got that price?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
actually ended up being like, what? And then we did some research and it's a pretty good price.
Yeah.
So,
So,
Again, as you, something being dealt with well beyond Massachusetts.
Mhm.
And we're told by the people at South Shore Recycling Collaborative, as well as the, Republic, obviously, you can't just take what the vendor tells you at face value, that realistically, even there are, China actually, in some areas, particularly cardboard and paper, but actually, they do have the need for it. They have the processing need, but again, there's just a lot more going on than at the, say, the international political level.
Yes.
Driving along this. So,
Yep.
that's it. I don't want to bore you with it, but just a heads up.
all right. Thank you very much. It's always good to have a heads up on next year's budget. Our next item was a discussion of special municipal employee status. Just really as a heads up, we have discussed this in the past. I don't know how much Greg or Renee, some of the newer members, remember the discussion on special municipal employee status, but the selectmen are revisiting it for all committees again at their July meeting. I believe it's July 16th. It's a Monday, Tuesday? Monday. The 16th, I have put in a request for our board to continue to have special municipal employee status. If you have opposition to that, let me know. If you would like to come to that meeting and speak or at least show support on our behalf for having it, feel free. I'm going to go to the meeting myself. So
What is the,
it is in regards to appearing before other boards within the town where there could potentially be like for example with Katie, with Health Express, where she could have to go for a permit for Health Express. If we don't have special municipal employee status, she can't go and represent Health Express because she represents the finance
You
committee.
can only have one contract
Yes.
with the municipality. So, for instance, even we have employees who work for multiple departments, but they're separate and aside. So it's not like under one position description,
Yeah.
this person will be
Yeah.
working. So that's having more than one contract with the entity. So even those positions need to have special municipal employee
Sure.
status. So,
hey, listen,
yeah.
if the city wants to start buying my stuff, I'll be happy.
Well, we can tell us later what you're selling. We can talk about that.
There you go, Rick.
Corporate jet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if we need a corporate jet, we'll call you.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
So, is there any discussion on that? Anyone have any comments? Anything? All right. That brings us to the regular part of the agenda. Do we have any liaison reports? Again, nothing. No liaison reports, which takes us to communications. We have an interoffice memo from our town accountant giving us details of the dates leading up to this weekend of when things are due and when things need to be done by to get the year-end transfers done and the like. Thank you. And we have the beacon, which I know that Greg wanted this time around. So.
Oh, yeah.
Would you like to see it first? I get it on.
I love the beacon.
The new Karen was gonna be on there.
Really good, yeah.
And that is the end of our agenda items.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Well, I was going to say before we so
No, it's a
move,
non-debatable motion.
our next meeting will be in the next fiscal year. It will be to sort of reform the board's
Reorganize?
reorganize the liaisons, the like chair, vice chair, all of that stuff. It will likely be later in July. It could potentially be in August. we'll probably discuss on email when people are away and try to get a slightly larger crowd for that meeting. So. Now, are there any other motions?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Again, I'm pausing to write down the notes. Any discussion on the motion to adjourn? Without any, all those in favor of adjourning? Opposed, abstaining, it is unanimous, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for being late.
Thanks for making
I
that.
know.
Well, it's okay, because I don't
Matt Matt texted me and I was like, didn't remember there was a meeting.
Oh,
So-
okay. All right, thanks for coming.
Beautiful.